Tonight I'm back at it. Looks like this brake is not working. It's the driver's side front. So what I'm going to try to do is pull the caliper off, and I can see if I can figure out what's going on. Maybe the brake hose is plugged. Maybe the master is junk. Or maybe the caliper piston is stuck, which is what I think the problem is. It's very different on these Fords. I never had used Ford disc brakes before. So it's very different than GM, where you have the bolt on either side that you take out. This one's got a little bolt here that has to come out. Looking at the caliper, the bottom side of the caliper. And this is not threaded all the way in. It's a retainer bolt because right here is a clip, some kind of sliding clip, that once you take this bolt out, you can hammer the sliding clip backwards. At least that's what I think happens. So I'm going to give that a whirl and hopefully it works. So I got the bolt out, and you can already see right here that the pin is sliding out. What I'm doing is just taking this little chisel and just hammering on it very lightly, and it's sliding this whole piece backwards, which is then going to come out and let me take the caliper off. So it's out. That's what it looks like. It was sitting in like this, and it's got this little like spring steel on top that rides on top, apparently to keep a little bit of pressure on it. So it's out, and here's what it looks like with it out. And you can see now, hopefully you can see that, there is a gap where the spring was, which should now allow the caliper to come up, to move. And it does. May not move out of the gate enough for me to get it off, but see, it's moving. So I'm gonna play with this for a minute and get it off and see what I can find. Okay, and it's off. You know, I mentioned on an earlier video how these disc brakes are not original and they don't look that old, and this really doesn't look that bad. If this caliper piston is stuck, I'll be surprised. Yes, it's full of cobwebs and such, but there's no real rust around it to speak of. Obviously it's been sitting, but not sure it's stuck. The mounting surface, again, it's got some bugs in there, and it's dirty, and there's rust on the rotor, but I don't think this is stuck. So how do I figure out if this is stuck? I got a tip from a comment that I hadn't even thought about. And what the person that commented on one of my videos said is, just take the caliper out like this and hit the brakes and see if the piston comes out. And if it does, push it back in and that'll free it up. The problem is, if you do that, the piston might come all the way out, and you don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a C-clamp around the piston to let it move, but not let it pop out. And I'm going to hit the brakes once I get that C-clamp in, and we'll see what happens. All right, we're going to see that. You can see the C-clamp is in. I'm going to hit the brakes. Hopefully this camera doesn't fall by myself, so doing the best I can, but let's see what happens. It didn't move a bit, not a bit. So I didn't learn a whole lot from that, except maybe the hose is plugged like I thought, or maybe it's really seized, or maybe this side of the master cylinder is not any good. So I'm going to have to keep troubleshooting. Next step is pull the brake hose off and see if I'm getting fluid through that. Process of elimination here. Get the hose off the caliper, and it's pretty much dry. I pressed the brake pedal. There's nothing coming out. So we're going to work our way back. Perhaps this hose is plugged. It's in bad shape. And if it's not, then I'll know that the master needs to be replaced. Yeah, so that's what's next. So this is about all I got time for tonight, but I figured it out. It's the hose. This hose is completely collapsed. It wouldn't even come off. It couldn't blow air through it, couldn't do anything. That's the end of it. I had to actually really struggle with it just to get it off. But it's internally collapsed. There's you can probably see my fingers just touching it, this black stuff that I've never seen before coming off of the hose. I think it's the hose itself. So I'm thinking that, hey buddy, I'm thinking that these hoses were probably on the donor truck when the disc brake kit was put on and never changed. Maybe they were good back then, but they're not now. So this one's going to get changed. I've already got them. I'm going to do the other side, and hopefully we'll have front brakes. Okay, so I haven't posted in the last few days because I've been working on the brakes. Both front brake hoses, one of them was completely shot. I replaced the passenger side. The brakes are now bled, so we're gonna give it a try and see if we can drive it. All right, I'm gonna see if this thing will drive. I don't know. I'm gonna pull it back and forth a bit, see how the brakes feel, and we'll give it a try. Okay, this is historic. This truck is about to hit the road for the first time in at least 15 years, probably a lot longer. Let's see how it does. Shifted in a second, no problem. Steering is awesome. Brakes work just fine. Just fine. The steering is so easy on this thing. Yeah, it's got all 3 gears. You know, I was worried about the transmission. Looks like I don't need to be. It's got all 3 gears. feel the flat spot, at least one of the tires, probably in the one that was flat. Doing about 25 miles an hour. Pretty cool. What was it? 3 weeks ago, this thing was sitting rotting under a tree. Boy, the steering is beautiful. I can't get over it. How easy this thing steers. I could steer it with one finger. Brakes are good. I don't hear any bearing noises. About the only thing that I can feel is that rear tire that was flat. It's flat spotted. Other than that, everything is beautiful. As nice as you could expect from a truck like this. I mean, it's not even wandering. I mean, look at that. I hit the brakes. Watch this. Watch my hands. I hit the brakes. It doesn't pull. It doesn't pull. The wheel isn't turning. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Not much gas in it, so I've got to get it home. See how it pulls this hill. Is that cool or what? Unbelievable.